In the 10th year of his marriage to Joshua Lynch, he made his eldest sister his queen. She ordered me to feed the poison with my own body to help her detoxify. Luna Gibson, it's just forget worry poison. Forget all your worries, isn't that good? Fine. I took the forget-me-not poison in front of him and started to forget my worries as he wished. Forget that he demoted my wife to a concubine. Forget the bowl of abortion medicine he gave you. Forget that I once loved him so much. Later, I asked the maid in confusion, "Your Majesty, this is very strange." I smiled at him. Why is he crying? 1. I always thought Joshua Lynch and I were in love. We have been married for 10 years, and I have accompanied him from being a deposed crown prince to being the most powerful person among the people. Countless nights, he panted and held my hand. Luna Gibson, I'm lucky to have you. Until the edict that conferred me the title of Empress, it was not my name that was written on it. Estelle Gibson. He ignored the opposition of his ministers and insisted on making the widow of the King of Shu, my elder sister, the Queen. Luna Gibson, she is your sister after all. You can't treat her unfairly. If you don't make her the Queen, does that mean that as a sister, I have to kneel to you every day? At that time, he looked at me with a matter-of-fact look on his face. Just like this time. Luna Gibson, she is your sister after all. Are you going to watch her die without helping her? The young man whose heart was filled with me, somehow, found someone else in his heart. Estelle Gibson asked for the Queen's seat, and he offered it with both hands. Estelle Gibson was poisoned, and he had no hesitation in asking me to feed the poison. Feed the goo with your own body is easy to say. However, the person who feeds the poison will have his entire body, bones and blood bitten by the poisonous insects for 7 days and 7 nights. Finally, a bowl of blood is drawn out to cure all poisons. I looked at Joshua Lynch, and my throat was so sore that I couldn't speak. Doesn't he know? He knows. He had gone to great lengths to find that witch doctor. But even though he knew what kind of suffering he would have to go through, he still had no hesitation and asked me to raise the poisonous insect. Because I am Estelle Gibson's only sister. My blood works best on Estelle Gibson. Luna Gibson, just the forget worry poison. Joshua Lynch lowered his posture. He squatted down, held my hand, and his eyes were full of tenderness. It's good to suffer for a while, but forget all the worries, isn't it? I suppressed the sweet taste under my tongue and forced a smile. Okay. Forget all your worries. It's what you want. 2. In the evening, Estelle Gibson sent for me, just as Joshua Lynch wished. I met Estelle Gibson, and she didn't have to kneel to me. But I kneeled to her. I knelt obediently on the ground, and Estelle Gibson reclined on the couch. I heard that my sister is willing to feed the goo with her own body to help me detoxify. After 3 months in the palace, Estelle Gibson's complexion became fair and rosy. Without waiting for my reply, she smiled sweetly. Thank you for your hard work, sister. Madam Watson, please give the fertility-granting guanine that His Majesty prayed for me last time to my sister. Oh, I almost forgot. My sister is in such poor condition right now that even Guanine herself would be helpless. She burst out laughing, and the palace maids all laughed along. Look, this is my beloved sister. Her father loves her. Because she fell seriously ill when I was born, she felt that I was her unlucky. He cruelly sent me to the village. Her mother took pity on her. It was she who was engaged to Joshua Lynch. But Joshua Lynch was deposed, and she was unwilling to marry. My mother then took me back home and married me off for her. Now, even Joshua Lynch loves her. Why are you laughing so happily? Speak of the devil, he will appear. Joshua Lynch stepped into the temple. The sneer stopped abruptly. I kept my head down. They are laughing at me, a hen that will never lay eggs. Joshua Lynch's expression suddenly turned cold. How dare you? The maids all knelt down. Who made concubine Estelle kneel? I've said before that concubine Estelle doesn't have to kneel in front of me. Where do you get the courage to? Husband, Estelle Gibson stood up gracefully, pulling Joshua Lynch's sleeve. Why are you so fierce? It scared the baby in my belly. My eyelashes fluttered. Looking up, Estelle Gibson was coquettishly placing Joshua Lynch's hand on his lower abdomen. Joshua Lynch touched her belly carefully and curiously. She noticed my gaze, looked over at me, and her lips moved. Look away. 3. No wonder Joshua Lynch is so anxious. Estelle Gibson was poisoned in Shu long ago. It won't kill her, but it will make it difficult for her to get pregnant. Even if you get pregnant, you will have a miscarriage. She had only been in the palace for 3 months, but she was already pregnant with Joshua Lynch's child. How many months old is the child? I'm afraid the two of them have already had a head and tail. 2. I grew up in Zhuangzi, and the person who really grew up with Joshua Lynch was Estelle Gibson. I walked aimlessly in the imperial garden, subconsciously touching my belly. I also had a child, but when she was 6 months pregnant, Joshua Lynch gave her an abortion pill. Then he held me in his arms and kissed me over and over again. Luna Gibson, if I don't use her to attract my father's attention, he will forget about me. It would be fine if you were to be a deposed prince for the rest of your life, but how could I bear to let you suffer with me for the rest of your life? Luna Gibson, don't be afraid. You are my wife. In the future, we will have many, many children. But now his wife is someone else. There is also someone else who will have many, many children with him. Returning to Qinlu Palace, Amy was shocked. Your Majesty, did the Queen torture you again? I shook my head. I'm just not used to it. I'm not used to seeing everything around me change in just a few months. Let me take a nap. Just have a good sleep. I took a shower, changed my clothes, and dreamed of many past events. Joshua Lynch and I have a relationship that goes back much longer than 10 years. I met him once when I was 10 years old. At that time, he lost the jade pendant on his body and looked for it frantically. I picked it up and gave it back to him. After he returned to Beijing, he wrote a letter to express his gratitude. After that, we corresponded for 5 years. When I came of age, we confided our true feelings to each other. So I never thought that the person he really loved was Estelle Gibson. So on our wedding night, I was extremely surprised when I saw the jade pendant on him under the veil. I dreamed that I didn't care about being reserved and lifted my veil with joy. The young man was dressed in a red wedding gown, his eyes filled with unconcealable amazement. After being stunned for a long time, he smiled and bowed gracefully. It's my fault for keeping you waiting for so long. At that time he said, no matter he would be a prince or an emperor in the future, you will always be my husband, my own husband. But today, I heard Estelle Gibson call him husband. The shout is so sweet. My heart ached deeply. I opened my eyes and saw Joshua Lynch looking at me. 4. He rarely comes over at night. Often, I would be called away by Estelle Gibson within half an hour of arriving. At this moment, he was looking at me without blinking in the night, just like the days when we slept in the same bed. When we open our eyes in the middle of the night, there is only each other in our eyes. Are you having a nightmare? Joshua Lynch pried open my tightly clasped hands. Estelle is spoiled. Don't blame her. It turned out to be for Estelle Gibson. I brushed his hand away and turned over. Give me a face. Joshua Lynch said in a deep voice, Luna Gibson, you are not good. He pinched the back of my neck and kissed me. A long-lost breath invaded, so long-lost that it seemed a little strange. It occurred to me that he might have just kissed Estelle Gibson like this. I felt nauseous and pushed him away. Joshua Lynch's face turned grim. Luna Gibson, do you dislike me? Hold my wrist and do it again. My tears fell. Joshua Lynch made a tisk sound. Why are you crying more now that life is getting better? He stopped, softened his tone, and carefully wiped away my tears. He always knows how to manipulate me. You know that I was thrown into a village when I was young and never received much love. Knowing that he is the only warmth I have ever felt, I can't leave him easily. Know that I love him with all my heart. If he were a little gentler, I wouldn't be able to do anything to him. You also heard today that Estelle is pregnant. You are the kindest person. How can you bear to watch a child die like that? I have confirmed with the wizard again and again that feeding the goo will only cause some physical pain, but will not harm the root. The poisonous insect will relieve your worries, and maybe you won't cry so much. Joshua Lynch smiled and tapped my nose. It's like talking about a trivial matter. My throat felt like it was filled with a heavy object and I couldn't make a sound. Your Majesty, the Queen has a headache. Please come over. Here you are, just on time. Joshua Lynch didn't leave in as much of a hurry this time as he did the previous times. He took a look outside the palace, took me into his arms, and gently stroked my hair. Luna Gibson, wait until you have cured Estelle of the poison. Wait until you forget the unhappiness in the past. Let's start over. Restart? Your Majesty, the palace servant outside urged. Joshua Lynch let me go and turned around. Your Majesty, I called out to him. When will the wizard be able to create the forget-worry poison? Joshua Lynch turned around. The forget-worry goo is already in the capital. Then, tomorrow morning. I looked at him, at the young man who had been engraved in my heart. Tomorrow morning, invite the wizard to the palace. 5. I don't know if the forget-me-not goo will allow me to start over with Joshua Lynch. I have no choice. My parents and my husband were looking forward to my detoxifying Estelle Gibson. On the second day, my Chenlu palace was more lively than ever. My father is the prime minister, my mother is an imperial edict holder, my husband is the emperor, and my sister is the empress. Get together. For people, for pairs of eyes, each staring at me with a smile. He stared at the cup of tea containing the poisonous insect and handed it to me. I looked at the black spider-like bug at the bottom of the tea and clenched my palms. I am afraid of bugs. The evil servant in the manor once took revenge on me by reporting me to my mother and threw a bed full of bugs on me in the middle of the night. Luna Gibson. Joshua Lynch spoke up. There is a hint of warning in it. I bit my lower lip until it tasted blood, then picked up the cup of tea and drank it in one gulp. My father laughed immediately. The Queen is blessed with great fortune. I wish your Majesty and your Majesty a happy birth of a precious son. The mother immediately supported Estelle Gibson. Is your Majesty frightened by that filthy thing? Estelle Gibson said helplessly. Father, mother, you should pay more attention to your sister. Sister, let me help you go to the inner hall to rest. She helped me up with a worried look on her face, and when she turned around, she whispered in my ear. A bright pearl will eventually be covered in dust. Silly sister, do you really think that the former crown prince has so much free time to talk to you about his innermost feelings? 6. A bright pearl will eventually be covered in dust. Joshua Lynch wrote to me, a beautiful woman is like a pearl, but when the pearl is covered by dust, no one recognizes it. But there will be a time. He said I was a pearl covered in dust. Say I'm fine. That I deserve to be loved. His words were like a ray of bright moonlight, illuminating my dark and gloomy life. But how did Estelle Gibson know? I didn't have time to think too much. The moment the poison entered my body, it began to gnaw at my flesh and bones. I lay on the bed, my whole body trembling, but I gritted my teeth hard to prevent myself from making any sound. People will laugh at you. I married Joshua Lynch when he was down and out and entered the palace as the crown princess. In the end, She was given the title of Princess Estelle. They would have laughed their heads off. Let them know that Joshua Lynch turned me into a medicine cauldron for his queen. I'm going to be the laughingstock of the streets again. I curled myself into a ball, just like when I was a kid and wanted someone to hug me but couldn't call anyone to hug me. I seemed to be sweating all over. I was immersed in the suffocating pain, filled with all those painful images that made me unbearable. The cold zhuangzi and the servants who gave me a cold look. The mother who speaks harshly. They treat you harshly? You are a lady from the Prime Minister's house. Why do they treat you harshly? Why don't you look for the reason within yourself? Did you behave inappropriately? Did you say or do something inappropriate? A cold and taciturn father. Smiling sister. Sister, you are really pretty. The scenery in the courtyard is very beautiful. You are not going to blame your father and mother for never visiting you, are you? The grand ceremony of crowning the queen, my husband, my sister. As expected of the queen that His Majesty wanted to appoint despite opposition from all the ministers. She is much more dignified than that vixen-like second miss. What's the point of favoring her for 10 years? She has no children in 10 years. Your Majesty has done his best by not divorcing her. There was a tearing pain in my lower body and even a few faint cries of a baby. Oh, what a pretty little princess. Who on earth gave Madam the drug? It's such a sin. No. No. My life shouldn't be so miserable. Not Joshua Lynch. He, a man who had never been in the kitchen, learned how to make longevity noodles for me. A person who cares most about his reputation borrowed money from everywhere to buy my birthday gift. When I needed to keep a low profile the most, I got into a fight with someone in the street because someone said a few words about me. After returning to the East Palace, he rejected the beauties bestowed by His Majesty 3 times. Only love me. He always hugs me. Luna Gibson, everything is going to be all right. One day, you will be the most noble woman in the world. I will present the most precious things in this world to you. He also wrote me so many letters. Because of his frequent letters, the servants in the village no longer dared to bully me. He said I was his most precious pearl. A bright pearl will eventually be covered in dust. But how did Estelle Gibson know? Is it him and Estelle Gibson playing a game to tease me? Are they all fake? I opened my eyes suddenly, and the pain penetrated every corner of my body like a sharp blade. I got up from the bed. Husband, husband? Amy rushed over. Madam, what's wrong with you? Your Majesty. Where is His Majesty? I'm in pain. My tears fell all over my face. I'm in so much pain. The poisonous insect seemed to be able to drill into the deepest part of my heart. Swallowed my whole heart. Your Majesty. Your Majesty is in the Queen's palace at this time. Amy also cried. Boom. I fell to the ground. It was as if something collapsed. What followed was a mouthful of blood. It's fake. They are all fake. The pearl and the couple are all fake. Your Majesty, I will go find His Majesty right now. I lay on the cold ground, looking at the quiet moonlight outside the window. After the fatal pain, only a slight itching and numbness was left. Those painful images gradually faded away. It takes shape again in my brain. It still looks the same as before, but something is different. I don't know how much time had passed. There are 2 sentences repeating in my mind over and over again. Love gives rise to anger. Love gives rise to hatred. Love gives rise to ignorance. Love gives rise to thoughts. No anger, no hatred, no ignorance, no thoughts. Well, no love. I got up from the ground. Amy's joyful shout came from outside. Your Majesty, His Majesty is here. Your Majesty. 7. Estelle Gibson and Joshua Lynch came together. As soon as he entered the door, he ran in with red eyes. My dear sister, you have suffered so much. When he entered the inner room, He was stunned to see me standing there safe and sound. Joshua Lynch followed in and was also surprised to see me. "Husband, you are right. That little pain is nothing to my sister." Estelle Gibson turned around and snuggled into Joshua Lynch's arms coquettishly. I tilted my head. Strangeness. My reaction seemed a little wrong. Estelle Gibson called Joshua Lynch husband. I should be sad. But now, my heart is surprisingly calm. But sister, why did you mess up the room like this? That piece of jade is the one your Majesty wore when he was the crown prince, right? I looked around. Some memories come to mind. I'm in pain. The pain persists day and night. The pain became unbearable, and he smashed everything within his sight. The jade was indeed Joshua Lynch's. It is a token of love between him and me, and I have always treasured it. Now it lies on the ground in pieces. Joshua Lynch frowned, clearly unhappy. If you're fine, why are you going crazy? When he saw my feet, his brows furrowed even more tightly. You don't even wear shoes. Are you afraid you won't get hurt? He was about to come over. Oops. Estelle Gibson cried out in tears. Your Majesty. She stepped on a broken piece of porcelain on purpose. Estelle. Joshua Lynch turned around and picked up Estelle Gibson. Luna Gibson, you are so ignorant. Stared at me fiercely. Call the imperial physician. I silently watched his back as he hurried away. I silently watched Estelle Gibson give me a provocative smile. Touched his heart. Strangeness. No feeling at all. 8. The world seems to have become different. To be exact, I am different. I didn't like leaving Chinlu Palace in the past. Every blade of grass and every tree in the palace reminded me of how I was demoted to a concubine. It occurred to me that Joshua Lynch might have swum with Estelle Gibson. But now, the flowers in the imperial garden are so bright, and the water in the Bai-Bo Lake is so green. The spring scenery is beautiful. Why shouldn't I go out and enjoy it? In the past, I would feel a dull pain in my heart whenever I heard news about Fingi Palace. His Majesty gave another reward to the Queen. Your Majesty and the Queen Mother chatted with each other all night long and did not sleep at all. Your Majesty has missed the morning court again because of the Empress. Nowadays, what does the affairs of Fingi Palace have to do with me? Even when I think of the past with Joshua Lynch, I feel calm inside. Those heartbeats, those heartaches, all disappeared. I found the world clearer and purer than ever before. My mind has never been so clear and lucid. So much so that the eunuch beside Joshua Lynch came over and asked me to get ready for the wizard to come and take blood. My first reaction was, why? Why should my blood be used to detoxify others? It's very painful to draw blood. I don't want to. I ordered Amy to take people to close the door of Chinlu Palace, lock the wizard and everyone else outside the door. Although I am not favored, I am one of the only 2 women in the harem. The palace gates were closed and no one dared to force their way in. Soon, Joshua Lynch's furious voice was heard from outside the Chinlu Palace. Luna Gibson, what the hell are you doing? 9. In fact, Joshua Lynch rarely gets angry. At least that's the case in front of me, because I always put him first. I listen to whatever he says. Even if she was unhappy, he would comfort her softly, and she would be fine. This time the mission seemed to be about to be accomplished, but I changed my mind at the last minute, which made him very angry. I was embroidering when he came in with a sullen look on his face. Luna Gibson, what do you mean? Estelle is already 4 months pregnant. Every day longer means more danger. I have been in the palace for 3 months and I am 4 months pregnant. I feel quite embarrassed to say it out loud. I didn't look up. I know you blame me for not visiting you during those 7 days, but I was busy with state affairs and the Empress' pregnancy seemed unstable. You are usually the most sensible person, but you have gone too far this time. I still embroider. Besides, did I lie to you? Are you safe and sound? I stretched the thread. Luna Gibson. A familiar move, but gentler. Be good and follow me, okay? I feel my heart. Nothing unusual. It was just as peaceful as when I had seen his face just now. Your Majesty. I looked at the pattern on the embroidery frame. I will come over. When the Queen passes away. Presumptuous. Joshua Lynch suddenly shouted. Then, there was the sound of sharp blades being unsheathed. He brought the Jinwu guards with him. Surrounded my Chinlu palace. I clearly deduced in my mind, the enemy outnumbers us, and if we fight head-on, we have no chance of winning. Luna Gibson, you. Let's go. I put down the embroidery frame and stood up. Luna Gibson. Joshua Lynch suddenly grabbed my wrist and said, turn around. Look at me. 10. I looked at Joshua Lynch. She looked at him more carefully than when he first came in. From eyebrows to eyes, from eyes to lips. I also felt more clearly than before the calmness of my heart. A rare look of panic suddenly flashed across Joshua Lynch's face, and he tightened his grip on me. Luna Gibson, you. Your Majesty. The Queen is suffering from severe abdominal pain and is in Fingy Palace. Joshua Lynch quickly regained his composure, and before the servant who came to report could finish his words, he dragged me quickly towards Fingy Palace. Estelle Gibson certainly didn't have stomach aches. It's just her usual trick. When he saw me, there even appeared in his eyes a familiar hidden smile of a winner. She did win. This poison has been in her body for 10 years. A concubine from a foreign race in the Prince of Shu's palace was given to her on the first day she married into the Prince of Shu's palace. Because it is too vicious, there is no solution. Now she needs my blood to save her. But I looked at her the same way I looked at Joshua Lynch. There was no ripple in my heart. Even until the dagger cut my wrist and blood gushed out, I remained calm. Not only the psychological pain, but the physical pain also disappeared. I turned my wrist deliberately. Really, no feeling at all. Instead, Joshua Lynch shouted Luna Gibson at the top of his lungs. It's just a wrist movement, and it doesn't affect the effectiveness of the blood. Why are you so nervous? Perhaps the disdain on my face was too obvious, and when I was leaving, Joshua Lynch stopped me again. Luna Gibson, what happened to you? He looked a little irritated. I'm happy, I replied. I've finally completed my mission and can retire now. I know you've been wronged, and I promised you that after this incident, Your Majesty should just stay in Fingy Palace with the Queen and live in harmony with her. You don't have to go to Chinlu Palace anymore. Luna Gibson. Joshua Lynch's face suddenly turned cold. There should be a limit to how angry you are. I'm not losing my temper. I am telling the truth. Your Majesty, I don't want to see you in Chinlu Palace again. Although I have no feelings for him, not even a feeling of disgust. But I don't want to be surrounded by a group of Jinwu guards and be forced to do something I don't want to do at any time. Good, very good. Joshua Lynch gritted his teeth and smiled. Luna Gibson, don't come to beg me. He flicked his sleeves and left. 11. I somewhat understand Joshua Lynch's anger. In all these years, I have never disobeyed him. Even when he gave me the abortion drug, I just cried and begged him. I am not afraid of going through hardships with you. I don't want that honorable position. I just want to be an ordinary couple with you. Husband, please think about it again, okay? Think about it again. She's already 6 months old. It's just a bowl of blood. Why are you throwing a tantrum? I can also understand why he asked me to feed the goo. I am someone who can take the knife for him. That year, when he was about to be restored to the throne, some people in the court became anxious and several groups of people tried to assassinate him at the same time. I blocked the knife for him without hesitation. There was a wound from the shoulder blade to the lower back, so deep that the bone was visible. I had to stay in bed for 2 months before it healed. I never cried out in pain at that time. It's just 7 days and nights of poisonous insect bites. What's that? I don't understand myself. Why would you risk your life to love a man like this? Those memories of the past no longer stir the slightest ripple in my heart, and I have no way of investigating them. But this is not important anymore. Joshua Lynch really never set foot in the palace of Dew again. He went to Thingy Palace every day. As if afraid that people didn't know that the Empress was in favor, everything he did was done with great fanfare. Amy couldn't help but murmur in my ear. It went in one ear and out the other, so I can't remember much. Not only can I not remember much of what Amy said to me, I found that many things in the past have gradually become blurred after not recalling them for a long time. Just like a fallen leaf or a blade of grass you see while walking on the roadside. Who would remember the appearance of an insignificant thing? But as the days passed, something had to be put on the agenda. I'm tired of looking at the flowers in the Imperial Garden. I'm tired of swimming in the water of Bow Lake. I can't stay in this palace anymore. On a sunny afternoon, I stopped Estelle Gibson's father, who had just visited Thingy Palace. 12. Forget-me-not goo is really a good thing. I had no emotion at all when I faced my father. Even when I told my father what I was going to do, he scolded me for being crazy. I also looked at him calmly. Father, when you married my sister to the King of Shu, you were on the King of Shu's side, right? The deposed Crown Prince and I are both your abandoned children. When the Crown Prince was deposed, you... Shut up. My father's face was as pale as paper. I tilted my head. So, father, will you help me? He is just like me once was. No choice. I used to always want their love. Why don't they like me? What did I do wrong? If I am more obedient and submissive, will they love me more? So, even if I have leverage over them, I never use it. I don't think so now. I don't want anyone to love me anymore. I want to love myself. My father did not let me down and quickly arranged everything for me. On the Dragon Boat Festival, there was a banquet in the palace. At that time, a big fire will be set in Chinlu Palace. Estelle Concubine will be buried in the fire, and I will take advantage of the chaos to leave the palace. I was extremely excited at the thought of leaving these deep palace walls. Even running into Joshua Lynch and Estelle Gibson in the royal garden didn't affect my good mood. At this time of year, lotus flowers are in full bloom. The two were enjoying the flowers in the pavilion. Estelle Gibson is 6 months pregnant and probably doesn't want to see me. So I just bowed from a distance and prepared to leave. I didn't expect that as soon as I turned around, I heard Estelle Gibson scream. When she turned around, she saw Joshua Lynch holding her chin and kissing her. I looked at them in confusion. If you want to kiss, why not find a palace to do it? In broad daylight, the palace maids were so ashamed that they couldn't even raise their heads. I made two TSK sounds and turned around again. I had only taken 2 steps when I heard the sound of porcelain breaking behind me. Joshua Lynch smashed the teacup next to him. 13. I probably offended Joshua Lynch. He suddenly demoted me. I was demoted from Estelle Concubine to Chin Concubine. See, this is what happens when you expect others to love you. He may not be generous when he wants to give, but he is decisive and resolute when he doesn't want to give. I don't care. It would be better if I were demoted to a concubine. I wouldn't even have to sit next to Joshua Lynch at the Dragon Boat Festival banquet. I am waiting for the Dragon Boat Festival with peace of mind. Estelle Gibson came once. They laughed at me for losing my favor and even my position as a concubine. I ignored her. She looked at me in confusion for a long time and finally sneered. My sister has grown up and is now playing hard to get? I'm afraid your Majesty won't buy this. He walked away with his chin raised. Joshua Lynch came twice. Both times he only stopped at the door for a moment and then left. It suits my taste very well. Before the Dragon Boat Festival, I met with my father again to make sure everything was ready. But that day, something went wrong. Moreover, it was a completely unexpected problem for me. 14. According to the rules, concubines have to sit in the lower seat. But the eunuch beside Joshua Lynch still led me to his side. That leaves me a spot even above Estelle Gibson. Estelle Gibson is about to slash me with her eyes. The ceremonial officers below all shook their heads. Joshua Lynch pulled me to sit down, satisfied. I didn't understand where he got these 3 words from, so I didn't reply. He put down the wine cup forcefully. Luna Gibson, how long are you going to make trouble? I am even more confused. When did I make a scene? If you want to feed the poison, I will do it. If you want to bleed me, I will do it. Estelle Gibson's belly is now big and much fuller than that of a normal pregnant woman. I always coax you. Why can't you coax me? The accident happened at this time. Tonight is the first palace banquet since Joshua Lynch ascended the throne, and there are many guests. Everyone had just sat down and the drinks had not yet been served. The palace maid, in palace dress, suddenly drew the long sword from her waist when passing in front of the main seat. He stabbed Joshua Lynch unexpectedly. Soon after, more palace maids and golden guards drew their swords or knives. There were screams and chaos at the scene. I reasoned clearly in my mind, "Assassin, target Joshua Lynch. This place is dangerous. Run." Joshua Lynch dodged the sword, and I tried to run, holding up my skirt. Not wanting to be dragged back by him, she said, "Follow me." I don't want to follow him. The group of assassins were coming for him. But Joshua Lynch held me so tightly that I could hardly leave his side. The Jimu guards quickly moved out and surrounded most of the assassins. But they were all wearing the same clothes. The person in front of me turned around unexpectedly, and his sword missed and came straight towards me. Without any thought, I pulled Joshua Lynch, who was pulling me, and made him stand in front of me. I can't feel pain. But you will die. I don't want to die. Let him die. Joshua Lynch couldn't believe it when the blade pierced his chest. The look in his eyes that suddenly looked at me was filled with shock, disbelief, and something called pain, which stirred up a huge wave of emotions. As the sword was pulled out, cracks began to form again. 15. Naturally, I couldn't leave the palace. There were so many assassins in the palace that the emperor was even assassinated. That night, the palace was in chaos. All the plans arranged by my father failed to be put into practice. After that, I had no chance to leave the palace. For some reason, Joshua Lynch didn't go to Fingy Palace, but moved to my Chinlu Palace. It's fine even if you move in, but there's still no peace. I told you to look at me. Listen. The roaring begins again. I raised my eyes and looked at him. That's not the case. Broke down again. It's not like that, Luna Gibson. You shouldn't look at me like that. So, what should we do? Your Majesty, you tell me, and I'll do it. I'm so sleepy. Joshua Lynch stood up suddenly with red eyes. He held my chin and kissed me eagerly. I blinked. It was natural to think of the day when he and Estelle Gibson kissed in the Imperial Garden. But there was no feeling, neither nauseating nor queasy. I wanted to sleep, so he pushed me onto the bed and I lay down. I know what he wants to do. We have done it countless times in the 10 years since we got married. But I have kind of forgotten what it felt like before. I looked at the swaying curtains. Was I this bored before? 1 auspicious cloud, 2 auspicious clouds, 3 auspicious clouds. Regardless of what Joshua Lynch did, I carefully counted the auspicious clouds embroidered on the curtain. Joshua Lynch is still recovering from his injury. Blood flowed down his chest, dripping onto me. I am still counting the auspicious clouds. He chose to open the wound himself. It has nothing to do with me. Joshua Lynch suddenly got angry, leaned down and bit me on the shoulder. His lips were also stained with blood. But I don't feel any pain. I looked at him in confusion. What are you biting me for? Joshua Lynch broke down again. He hugged me tightly, his voice almost sobbing. Luna Gibson, what's wrong with you? How did you become like this? He seemed to suddenly think of something, paused, and then quickly pulled away. He didn't even wipe the blood off his body, just put on his coat and went out. Send the witch doctor. Send me the witch doctor. 16. I leaned behind the screen and saw Joshua Lynch pointing his sword at the wizard kneeling on the ground. What on earth did you give Luna Gibson? Why did she become like this? His face was already grim, and at this moment he had long hair and an open black shirt, revealing his bleeding chest. The wizard was so frightened that he turned pale and kowtowed. Your Majesty, what I gave your Majesty was indeed the forget-me-not goo. If she is the forget-worry goo, why is she looking at me like a stranger? I guess so. The wizard murmured, changing the subject. Your Majesty, forget-worry goo can make people forget all their worries and also forget the source of these worries. I think it is. He didn't dare to say anything more, but Joshua Lynch had already guessed what he was going to say. His face suddenly turned pale. Nonsense. If it was just the forgetfulness goo, how could she not even feel the pain on her skin? Your Majesty, have you ever experienced extreme physical pain? If so, the forget-worry goo will indeed make your Majesty lose the sense of pain. Joshua Lynch's face turned pale again. I don't know whether he was thinking about the child he had taken away or the knife I had blocked for him. The hand holding the sword shook uncontrollably. He pointed at the witch doctor like a demon and said, "Hand over the method to cure the poison." Your Majesty, I have already explained this to you before the poison was cast. Once the poison enters the body, it will merge with the flesh and blood, and there will be no turning back. But if the poisonous insect feels that there is no more sorrow in the host's body to eat, the wizard kowtowed heavily. I will naturally leave and look for my next host. 17. Joshua Lynch is a changed man. He restored my position as concubine. Many of the rewards that were previously bestowed upon Fingy Palace began to flow to Chinlu Palace. His injuries healed, but he refused to move out of Chinlu Palace, following me day and night. Luna Gibson, do you remember this? You embroidered it for me the first year you married me. I looked at the somewhat worn-out sachet. I remember. What about this? It was snowing heavily that winter, and you wanted to make me a pair of rabbit fur gloves. But you couldn't bear to kill the rabbit, so you chased it all over the yard. I remember. And that year. Joshua Lynch's eyes became brighter as he spoke. That new year, we went to Swaiming Mountain to pray for blessings and protection. I remember everything. I looked at him calmly, so. Joshua Lynch's eyes suddenly dimmed. It's okay, Luna Gibson. He forced a smile. It's just the forget-worry poison. Once the poison leaves you, you'll be fine. You're going to be fine. Luna Gibson, there are still many misunderstandings between us. Please listen to me. Joshua Lynch started talking about the neglect he suffered a few days ago. He said he was just angry that I smashed the jade pendant he gave me. Angry that I spoke coldly to him. He found the fragments of the jade pendant from somewhere and glued them together. Look, I did it myself, and it's still the same as before, isn't it? I suspected that there was something wrong with his eyesight. It's ugly. Throw it away. It was just a true statement, but Joshua Lynch's eyes turned red. It's okay. It's okay. He went on to quote Estelle Gibson's line, "Everlasting beauty is covered in dust." Said Estelle Gibson, just saw the reply letter I wrote to her that year. I have kept those letters as treasures and take them out to read whenever I feel tired. I didn't mean for her to see it. I nodded. Oh. There is also the matter of establishing a queen. Joshua Lynch held my hand. Luna Gibson, The king of Shu is not dead yet, the country is not stable yet, and Estelle Gibson, the queen, was made for show. 18. Joshua Lynch actually said that the baby in Estelle Gibson's belly has nothing to do with him. That child belongs to the king of Shu. The king of Shu faked his death and escaped, taking with him many of his hidden assassins. The enemy is in the dark, he is in the light. He made Estelle Gibson his queen and wanted to protect the child at all costs in order to provoke the king of Shu to show up. That's his only child. He can't just ignore it. Even if he doesn't show up for the time being, the child will always be his handle. Besides, I was right, wasn't I? He couldn't hold back on taking action during the Dragon Boat Festival. In the past, if Joshua Lynch had explained this to me, I would have probably cried with joy. But now, I'm just listening. Luna Gibson, once this is over, I will destroy Estelle Gibson. I promised you. I yawned. Your Majesty, I am sleepy. You should discuss the affairs of the country and family with your advisors. I'm really sleepy. Enter the inner hall, close the door, and sleep peacefully without dreams. What Joshua Lynch said may be true or false. I didn't take it seriously. To me, they are no different than the approaching fall and the yellowing of leaves. And he followed me and said things that perhaps I loved to hear in the past. It's no different from the buzzing of a summer mosquito. I embroidered and slept every day, and the days passed quickly. When autumn finally arrived, Estelle Gibson gave birth to a baby boy. Joshua Lynch made it known. When the child was 1 month old, he made a big fuss and planned to take the baby and the queen on an autumn hunt. I know what he's going to do. He also knew that I knew what he was going to do. But when I asked him to take me with him, he readily agreed. Luna Gibson, the last step, you have to trust me. The night before departure, I went to Fingi Palace. 19. After the Dragon Boat Festival, Fingi Palace has been surrounded by the Jinwu guards. But Joshua Lynch treats me like a treasure these days. No one stopped me. The child looks a lot like Estelle Gibson. My personality is quite similar to yours. Estelle Gibson held him in her arms, and the words she said were still not pleasant. You haven't made a sound for a long time. You don't even cry when you're hungry. You're so stupid. I'm already planning to leave. She added, don't blame your sister for always going against you. Joshua Lynch married me, held me hostage, humiliated me. Why should I let you have an easy time? I lowered my eyes. Not interested in arguing about this. She asked again, sister, are you really going to do this? This was the first time she called me sister seriously. No sarcasm, no ridicule. I looked up too. Joshua Lynch never touched me, Estelle Gibson sneered, except that time in the gazebo. He came over as soon as I called him, simply because he was afraid that I would do something to the unborn child. I looked at her in confusion. Sister, did you make it real? He was clearly accusing Joshua Lynch of all the evil things he had done to him in the previous breath. Now, he spoke for him again. Estelle Gibson laughed while holding her belly. Forget worry, Goo. It's really a good thing. Laughing, I cried. Go ahead, as long as you don't regret it in the future. I took a step forward and said, I hope you won't regret it before the battle. 20. I sold Joshua Lynch. He used Estelle Gibson and the child as bait to give the king of Shu a chance to kidnap people. The king of Shu knew it was a trap, and if he went, he would definitely give it his all. The autumn hunt will be a battle of life and death. I told Estelle Gibson that I was willing to lend a helping hand to the king of Shu. Joshua Lynch has me under his nose day and night, and no one knows better than me what he will do when the time comes. Estelle Gibson asked me why. I told her bluntly, because I want to run. Who wants to stay with a mosquito all day? But last Dragon Boat Festival, the king of Shu's secret agents were eliminated. My father's eyes and ears were all involved. My father can't help me anymore. It turned out just as I expected. Joshua Lynch never put his guard up against me and even wanted to explain the whole thing to me in detail. As expected, Estelle Gibson had been in contact with the King of Shu and passed the message on. Joshua Lynch was in a very good mood that day. Luna Gibson, wait until I get back. He hugged me, just like the young man who only had eyes for me. Okay, I'll wait for you. I responded to him, just like the good wife who only had him in her heart. Before leaving the house, Joshua Lynch suddenly turned back. Luna Gibson, smile at me. I was stunned. She put down the embroidery frame and looked at him with raised eyebrows. He suddenly looked away. The hand holding the longbow trembled slightly. It's okay. He murmured these 3 words again. I don't know whether he was talking to me or to himself. He looked at me again. Wait until I come back. Lift the curtain and leave. 21. I certainly won't wait for him to come back. After all, it is not certain whether he can come back alive. As soon as Joshua Lynch left, I took Amy and left the base in a car. It was many years later that I heard about the day when the mountains and forests were stained with blood. His Royal Highness the King of Shu, who had died in battle long ago, resurrected and led hundreds of Jingwei to attack the new emperor. The new emperor originally had personal soldiers by his side, but they were cut off from both ends, and all contact was severed. Trapped in the valley, the battle lasted for 3 days. During the 3 days and nights, the queen was killed in battle, and the prince, who was just 1 month old, died on the spot. The new emperor was heartbroken and flew into a rage. The king of Shu was beheaded, his body left incomplete. But at the moment, I have no time to pay attention to the mountains and forests. 3 days will be enough for Amy and I to leave the mountains. After another 3 days, we approached the northern border. After another 3 days, the border was right in front of us. Beyond the border is the neighboring country. In addition to Dacia, there are 7 other countries with different customs and folk customs. You can find a place you like, spend the rest of your life freely and in the way you like. We didn't rest for a day, and we're about to pass through with the past documents we had prepared long ago. When the whip was raised, the sound of galloping horses behind him was accompanied by a sharp shout. Wait! 22. The strong smell of blood passed through the walls of the carriage and wafted to my nose. The sky was slightly dark and the wind was slightly weak. I was sitting in the carriage. Luna Gibson, come down. A familiar voice, with suppressed anger. Luna Gibson, you come down now. I won't pursue what you did. I looked at the shadowy figures outside the car curtain and didn't move. Luna Gibson, what else are you dissatisfied with? Joshua Lynch's voice was almost choked with sobs. Get out of the car and I'll explain everything to you. I have personally killed the King of Shu, and no one can stop us now. From now on, we have no future. I interrupted him. Your Majesty, I don't want any future with you. Impossible. Joshua Lynch suddenly staggered 2 steps, lost his balance, and held onto the shaft of the cart. Luna Gibson, blame me. It's my fault. Joshua Lynch said hoarsely, just listen and follow me back. You are just controlled by the poison. You forgot how much you loved me. Joshua Lynch took 2 more steps forward. The horse kicked the ground anxiously. Joshua Lynch seemed to lose his balance and fell to the ground. When someone tried to help him, he shouted, "Get lost." Luna Gibson, you forget that you used to put me first. You worked till your eyes turned red making clothes for me. You are reluctant to spend money, but you cook soup for me. You value me more than your own life. How could you not care about my life or death? How could you possibly leave me? How is it possible? Your Majesty also said that that was in the past. I interrupted him coldly. Joshua Lynch, I don't love you anymore. Because I don't love, I can see clearly. There was another strange noise coming from the shaft of the cart. The wind came and fluttered the car curtains. Reveal the person behind the curtain. Joshua Lynch is missing an arm. Probably because he was in a hurry, he didn't even have time to change his clothes. There were dried blood stains all over his body and his face was extremely pale. He was almost lying on the frame. His eyes were red. "Why are you acting so affectionate?" I looked him in the eye without hesitation. "Joshua Lynch, you don't love me that much either." "No," he said excitedly. "Luna Gibson, we had to go through so much hardship in the past, but we finally got to where we are today. You've gone through so much hardship with me. Is it necessary?" I looked at him quietly. "Joshua Lynch, if that child was a boy, would you still be so determined not to have him?" Joshua Lynch was stunned and seemed to have taken some effort to remember who the child I was talking about was. "If it's a boy, he'll be the eldest grandson of the emperor, so that's different." "It's not different," I said indifferently. "You obviously have many other ways to break the situation." But he chose to sacrifice her and me. Just like dealing with the king of Shu. You have ascended the throne, and he has been defeated. You need to eliminate future troubles so you can make long-term plans. You chose such an extreme method. Because these methods are the fastest to achieve results and have the least losses. Maybe you care about me, but you also care about your power, your status, and your face. Why did you insist on marrying Estelle Gibson, who had rejected you? Can't you see through Estelle Gibson's trick of deliberately hurting me? But you still play along with her. Why? Joshua Lynch, I am the least of your concerns. I was once in trouble. Don't understand. He obviously loves me. We had such wonderful memories and walked through such muddy years hand in hand. Why did he do that to me? You can only understand it if you are outside the situation. Love is probably love. Not that much. Joshua Lynch, I don't want this kind of love. Joshua Lynch shook his head. No, that's not the case. Luna Gibson, it's not what you think. I love you. He actually had tears. Tears streamed down my cheeks, melting the dried blood. Follow his hands and pat the frame. Get out of the car, Luna Gibson. I'll explain to you that you were the one I wanted to marry. I only acted with Estelle Gibson because I was the king of Shu's spy in the palace. Then let's take a look. I stood up, lifted the car curtain, and came within reach of him. I grabbed the whip. Let me see how much you love me. Joshua Lynch, now, I want to leave. Are you fulfilling me or yourself? Joshua Lynch was barely standing, looking up at me. He wanted to grab me with trembling hands. Dirty. His hand paused. Deep despair burst out from the depths of his black eyes. I didn't look at him again, nor did I care about his body leaning against the front of the carriage. He raised his whip and said, "Go." 23. It was also many years later that I heard people talking about this day. After 3 days of fierce fighting, the affectionate new emperor ignored his own injuries and worked without sleep for 7 days and nights. Chase your soulmate. Unfortunately, my heart is as hard as iron. Everyone at the border was watching that day as the carriage left resolutely. The man, who was already badly wounded, nearly died on the spot. His first reaction after being rescued by the guards was still to chase, until he finally ran out of strength and fell into the dust. I didn't look back. I don't know whether this rumor is true or not. I only know that the moment we passed the checkpoint, my heart seemed to have grown a pair of wings. Only after they had passed the moat did Amy dare to get out of the carriage. "Girl, where are we going?" She took the whip. I asked her to park the car near a quiet lake. The sky is blue and the water is clear. I took out the bamboo tube I was carrying and released the poisonous insect that had been waiting for a long time. Go, find your next host. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I have gone through more terrifying relationships than this one. From now on, the sky is high and the sea is vast. It's all my freedom.